for this week's post, I wanted to think of something that might not be as obvious when thinking of traumatic world events. I decided to go with the assassination of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, two prominent members of the Black Panther Party. Chicago police killed these two men in their homes, which ended up being large contributing factors to the dissolvement of the Black Panther Party. I believe we can see how these events have informed the way we think about Black liberation movements and grassroots activism. For example, since the end of the Black Panther Party, African Americans did not really have a unifying political organization to challenge police brutality and systemic racism. In addition, the assassination of prominent civil rights activists throughout the 20th century certainly sent a twisted message. African Americans were the most affected by these events, and I have read excerpts from political activists detailing the debilitating effects they have had on the community. When people who are ultimately fighting for racial equity are seen as violent threats by government organizations, it just shows the deep-rooted racism that is still heavily prevalent throughout our society and political systems. In the reading, Montville discusses many pertinent topics relating to victimhood and the underlying psychology behind trauma and injustice. According to Montville, the focus is on identity and esteem issues, which are extremely vulnerable to political violence and aggression. Sadly, for many nations and peoples, traumatic loss dominates their memory of history. When examining systemic racism in the U.S., having a thorough understanding of these concepts is incredibly important. Ultimately, the goal of justice and equity is to ensure that everyone has access to all the levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and are able to secure both their physical and esteem needs. Montville also mentions that, quote, "There is one tool in the problem-solving workshop that consistently overcomes the defenses of sides that believe they are victims of unfair collective attack. This is the telling of personal stories of loss," unquote. Dialogue is extremely essential in the conflict's transformation process and helps to heal generational hurt and trauma. I believe we need to have more conversations about systemic racism in order to address past traumas and begin the healing process for future generations.